In this podcast, we're going to talk about expansive discipline and what it means to have expansive discipline and how you can tell if you have expansive discipline. And the way I would describe the expansive discipline is making the growth versus the comfortable choice in any given moment. So when presented with an opportunity, a task, a risk, you're able to slow down and choose what would be seemingly more difficult in the situation that will grow your life versus shrink your life. And this, for me, when I learned about this type of discipline, is the discipline that saves you from depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, contraction in your life. Because when we make comfortable decision, after comfortable decision, we don't end up in comfort. We end up in psychopathology where we are struggling. So when we choose the growth decision, which is hard in the moment, but the short-term pain, long-term gain, that's when our life grows. We feel better. We perform better. Our life's better. So that is, and the fundamental part of discipline that gets us there is expansive discipline. Do you want to share anything more on that, Pete?
This is like reactive discipline on steroids. So this is being able to respond in the moment, but in a way that where you're going to make a power move or you're going to move into growth rather than comfort and safety.
You described it earlier as like courage.
Yeah,
it's courage. It's like I'm actually going to choose the harder path here. So here's some of the ways you can see if you've got expansive discipline. Here's some of the questions. Again, if you want to see this on a scorecard, head on over to the show notes, and we've got a scorecard that will measure you on 3 types of discipline. So here's question number 1. Do you have hard conversations? Will you have the courage to go into conflict with someone? And the reason this is an expansive discipline sign is that you know that hard conversations will often be high stake. There's a lot of risk and you could lose a friend, but you're willing to go into there to expand your life. You don't retreat from that. We've seen so many guys struggling in their life because they've avoided these conversations time and time and time again with business partners, co-workers, colleagues, friends, family, and partners. So just knowing that you've got that ability to say, do you know what, this conversation is not going to be comfortable, but I'm going to go and have it, is a really, really, really big indicator that you have this type of discipline, because it isn't easy. Next one, do you frequently set goals that are way beyond your current capabilities? You want to talk to that one, Pete?
I think there's 2 ways to look at this one. Number 1 is the long term. So what's the bigger vision here? And we don't have to have that fucking spot bollock on, but like at least directionally correct. Some form of like northern star. Like it's kind of over there. Like I feel a draw to that big direction. But then also the short term, which is easier for a lot of us to focus on as that's the short term. Like I want to go and get the car, or I want to go and get X amount in my account, or whatever that looks like short term wise. So to be able to do both short term and long term.
How often are you willing to take calculated risks that could lead to significant growth? Now, this is a biggie for a lot of people, is how often you are willing to take calculated risks. Now, there's some people that will live their life through a lens of fear, and they'll never really grow because they're worried about every decision they make. So this ability to say, do you know what, I've really worked out that the risk versus the reward is achievable. I can take this risk and it could really come through. And do you know what? If it doesn't go well, I've got the ability to deal with it. I'm going to go and take this risk.
Also, I am much preferring to play life on offensive rather than defensive.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Right. And because when you play on offensive, even if it doesn't fucking work out, you learn. And typically from that learning lesson is like, oh, well, I now know what to do. Anyway, I now know what to do to get me to that next level. Right. So just playing on offensive, which involves taking risks, I think it's a better way to live.
Nice. How frequently do you continue to strive for a goal, even after multiple setbacks or failures? So this is where you create your future from the future instead of the past. Just because you failed once or twice, it doesn't mean you're going to fail again. So many people create a narrative that because they've made multiple mistakes, things haven't gone well, the business has failed, the relationship hasn't gone well, they over-calibrate, and then they're not willing to jump into this new opportunity.
Yeah.
So So I think it's that ability to say, do you know what? I can create my life in a different way.
To be able to fall down 7 times and get up 8. One of my clients messaged me the other day. He's a one-to-one client, and we do some business coaching. And in the past, like 2 months, we've had like 3 people leave his business. 2 of them have been brand new, so they've come in and then they've left. And the last person who left, it was for pure, like, massive personal reasons. The guy's got some stuff going on, but my client messaged me and said, "Pete, we go again." And I was like, we fucking do. And I said, "Listen, you've just taken 2 steps forward and just 1 step back. It's progress." And your mentality on "we go again" is why you are already successful and why you're going to be even more successful, because you just keep going.
Yeah, I love that. I like that analogy of like snakes and ladders. Like the structural discipline is the snakes and the ladders. The reactive discipline is not responding to how they roll the dice, but it's just that expansive is like, I'm just going to keep moving up the board. I'm just going to keep going at the board. I really like that. How would you rate your commitment to lifelong learning and personal growth? We talked in an earlier podcast we recorded today about self-development not being an optional thing. It's a daily commitment. And I think expansive discipline, where it meets structural discipline, A, it's in your calendar, but B, you commit to it and you see it as a part of it. It's not a negotiable thing. It's like, oh, I'll do it, may not do it. It's part of you as a person. I think that's something that we both, Pete and I, have, is it's part of us. We'll never go deeper than we've gone with ourselves with clients, or we'll never build a really high, massive business if we haven't laid the foundations to be able to run that business. So a really important part of expansive discipline. The next one is, how would you rate your ability to challenge your own perceived limitations?
Oh, that's a fucking really good one.
It is a great question.
That is.
I came up with that question, by the way. I just want to full credit to me.
Yeah, well done, mate. That is a solid question. What's that? Say that again.
How would you rate your ability to challenge your own perceived limitations?
Oh, yeah, so good. Do you know what? I shouted out in the car yesterday with Leo. I was like, "Leo, what is the next move?" I was like, I'm shouting it out with Leo. Leo's my 2.5-year-old son. I was like, what am I not seeing? What is the next move? But it's to be able to challenge yourself and to be able to think, okay, like what am I not seeing here?
Yeah, that's a great question. But let's slow down to this for a second, because it really is. But your ability to challenge your own perceived limitations. And that's the important word there is perceived. Where is my glass ceiling right now? And that's what Pete was saying there, is like, what am I not seeing? What is the glass ceiling I'm not, I've got upon myself?
Where's the fear?
Yeah, and it could be something as simple as, just simple actions, but it's a really good question. But slowing down to that question can really, really help you. How good are you at recalibrating when your current strategy isn't working? So that, again, what you were shouting in the car, what's not working here? And it really does relate to be able to change course ever so slightly. And it means it could be a 1% shift. Even as we were doing the podcast today, we talk about the podcast, and Pete said, well, there's various parts of this podcast that we need to use as reels. And it's just recalibrating the strategy with the way that we do the podcast ever so slightly. So instead of a 40-minute episode, we're doing a 10-minute episode, and we're testing that. And then we'll see how well you've listened to this. And did you go and fill out the scorecard? Because then actually you're getting a much richer experience of the podcast from a 1% change. And instead of just putting up a 50-minute episode where we talk around about discipline, we've made it a micro change. So how good are you recalibrating when your current strategy isn't working? Final one. How would you rate your self-discipline when it comes to maintaining habits that facilitate your personal growth? So how would you rate your self-discipline when it comes to maintaining habits that facilitate your growth? Like, do you get in the habit of doing something, and then as you get a bit of a result, you take the foot off the gas? And that is something I've seen commonly in fitness and business, in my own life, in other people's lives. As soon as things start going well, they take the foot off the gas.
Yeah, which is why, rather than being like drawn to the result itself, you need to be drawn to the process. So it's the process that I'm going to validate myself on. It's the process that I'm going to continue, whether it's fucking raining, sunny, or there's unicorns jumping over the rainbow. I'm going to do the process. The result will come. I'm not fixated on the result.
It's actually a good question, actually. It wasn't the last question. Has your life grown in the last 6 months? And that's a really good way to see, like, how am I really operationalizing this expansive discipline? Has my life grown significantly in the last 6 months? And you do look back over your life and there will be small inflection points. And this is what expansive discipline does. It allows you to have that little hockey stick growth every now and again, where you really engage in expansive discipline. You really put into practice what we just shared on this podcast. So if you want to go and get a score for your expansive discipline, head on over to the show notes where there's a link. It takes you to a scorecard. There's 10 questions on expansive discipline. We also ask you about structural and reactive discipline, and you'll get a report at the end. And it'll actually give you ways that you can work on these really, really easy, pragmatic stuff that's going to really help you move the needle.
Cheers, guys.